Hello, everyone, and welcome to our recap episode for a little bit of 5, but mainly episode 6 of Survivor Chaos Online Games Yasawa Islands. Robbie, what have you thought of these episodes?
Well, again, we're rolling along. Episode 5 starts off, and we have Jeremy, who we typically, so far we haven't actually seen a lot of him talking in groups. Almost all of his content is in confessionals, which is a strong strategy if it's working, right? It's one of those strong but silent type strategies. So starts off with him talking about his alliances, how he feels pretty comfortable, but he mentions that we're getting to the end of it, and we got to start getting a little bit more strategic and look to the future. So we roll right from that to McKenna and Lauren letting everybody know that, hey, you've made jury, so no more hiding in Messenger. Everything needs to be on video. So I was really happy that happened as a viewer, right? Because you want to see everything. You want to get people's opinions and where they're coming from and their thought processes and all of that stuff. So that was good to see.
Yeah, so essentially what was happening on earlier in the season, as you were talking about, a lot of Messenger was being used, and they'd be in the rooms together, but instead of talking, they'd be using their Messenger. And we, in our production chat, we were talking with each other about that, and we brought up the point, and we were like, okay, once we hit jury, because it's a little too late now to make any changes immediately, we're going to get the jury, and then we're going to say, you need to be talking in these rooms. So you can't be messaging each other. Like, the only people you should be messaging is if you're messaging production to be like, oh, I need to do my confessional, or someone's telling you you're coming in to do a confessional. So I think that really does help improve the quality of these episodes as we move forward, because you have more content to use. So like, part of why you're not seeing Jeremy in the beginning is you're in the room, but you're not talking. You're just texting each other like, is this the plan? Okay, that's the plan. Okay, that's what I've heard. I didn't hear anything else because no one's talking like physically.
Yeah,
but,
and you can't blame them, right? I mean, you can't blame the players. I mean, you're there. You need to communicate. You're worried about going home. You've got Messenger sitting right there, and maybe there's some sort of mechanism that can be put in sometime in the future where maybe you're in like a Discord chat where the moderator has the opportunity to lock it. So, okay, you've got 30 seconds of messaging if you need to, and then 3 or 4 minutes of social round. I'm locking Messenger, and you better talk on camera or else people aren't going to know what's going on. So I don't know, but I loved it. I love that they implemented that, like I said, as a fan, because you want to see it. And then you can see the shock on some people's faces too. And I think there was 2 or 3 people actually looking down like that, like on their phone when the hosts were saying these words, like no more Messenger. I think Karen might have been one of them. It looks up like, oh crap.
Yeah, like suddenly this game just got a lot more real, because even in other minis that we've seen people play in, we both played in minis before, there was, while it was a lot of talking like we're doing right now, you did also have like, oh, I'm gonna be texting production and be like, hey, I want to be put in a room with this person, this person, and this person, and like that's what you're doing. You weren't so much really texting the other players, so that was a privilege and a little bit of a gift that these people got at the beginning. But it allows us to start to see who some of the more true game players are when you don't just have your Twitter fingers going.
Yes. Yeah. And we roll right from that conversation into the immunity challenge, which is brain food. So as if this season hasn't used the wheel enough, it starts off with the wheel, and it chooses 4 captains, I guess you could say, which is an interesting strategy, because when I heard the challenge, the way it was described, it's going to be a memory challenge where you have to choose cards and flip them over and make pairs, right? Like out of a deck of cards. And the way that I heard it was, okay, we're going to draw 4 captains, and those captains are going to get to pick their partner, and whoever captain number 4 is gets whoever's left. And my understanding was, okay, you're going to spin the wheel, a captain gets picked, they pick their partner. And then the wheel gets spun again, captain gets picked, they pick their partner. So it's almost like dwindles down, but really the wheel itself threw randomness in there, because all 4 captains were picked in a row before anybody got drafted. And I thought that was good too, because once again, you get some odd pairings that get put together, right? We see Austin gets picked as the first captain, and you have Karen, Carlo, and Corey, I believe, as the other 3. And Austin starts off by picking David as a partner.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because at this point, the lines in the sand have been drawn, right? Like, people know you've got the two original tribes pretty much, even though we're merged, working against each other.
Yep.
And for Austin to, who was left? You had Phill, who they have been working with, even though he's on the other side. And you had Jeremy out there, who he could have picked Jeremy right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
But instead he grabs David. And I thought that was kind of telling as well, where, I'm not sure if that was intentional, kind of to somehow hide some connection he might have with Jeremy, or if it was just, hey, David has a good brain, let's use it and hope we win.
Yeah, I'm thinking he was more in line of, I'm picking David because I perceive him to be one of the smarter people to do that. Because you hear him in his confessionals, and he's very that group of five of him, Corey, Karen, Jeremy, and Phill. He's like, that's who I'm rocking with. I made my bed there. I'm going to 5 with them, and then figure it out from there. Like, that's his strategy to prolong, and good for him to realize that they see him as a number, and he's like, I'm good to be a number right now and find my way through that way. So, but I think in this particular moment, he's gotten votes. He's gotten a lot of votes. So he's like, let me try to be safe for a night.
Yeah. And we see Karen grabs Jeremy right away when she has the second pick. And that kind of makes sense. The same reason why Austin might have picked Jeremy in the first round. Carlo grabs Annie, which
makes sense.
It does and it doesn't, once again, because strategy kind of comes into play. He's tying himself even closer to Annie by doing that pick. He could have picked Phill at that point and tried to work that angle a little bit, because he wasn't sure at that point who the flipper was, right? And we touch on this a little bit later, where Carlo's very, very preoccupied. Pretty much his entire game is preoccupied by who flipped and what do we do about that and who flipped. But he grabs Annie. I think that's a safe pick for Carlo. He knows that Annie's not going to try to sabotage the game, which somebody could have, right? That's another way you could have played this. Could have grabbed your target and then thrown the challenge on purpose. So,
yeah, that's very true. Obviously, this is us as production seeing this. The good move of him picking Annie is if Carlo and Annie win that challenge, they don't know David has his idol because David hasn't told everyone about it.
Yeah.
He uses that idol that round because he knows he has to, and it forces someone on that 5 to go home, and it would have been Corey.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that later on in the episode. And Corey grabs Phill as the last pick. And Phil's a brain, so it's kind of funny that he lasted till the last pick, but I'm sure Corey was happy with that. And you see it, I think one of the first rounds that they go, Corey and Phill just randomly grab lucky number 7s, I think. And with no hints, they just make a pair. And I think they might have done that 2 or 3 times in a row to start the game, which was really funny. There's a lot of luck there, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, the way this game works, which I don't necessarily agree with it. I like it the way that I've seen it in the past, where if you make a pair, you go again. The way this game works was if you make a pair, you get your points, and the next team goes.
Yep.
And that's a whole different, style of gameplay, because you might actually decide, okay, I'm not going to make a pair because I see somebody I know coming up, and I need them to make the pair so I can, you know what I mean? Like it's strange. And you see towards the end of this challenge, Annie and Carlo, I think there were 6 cards left. And Annie and Carlo were behind, I think, by 1 or 2 pairs. And Annie and Carlo make a pair. They drag it down, and there's only 4 cards left. And if it was the other gameplay, now woulda, coulda, shouldas, right?
Yep.
If it was you could continue, they would have went potentially, 3, 2, 1 on the end. And exactly the scenario you just discussed, Annie, Carlo, and David might have all been safe this episode. And David would have been the clear target, and probably would have saw some votes, and it would have caused the hyenas to come out and start going nuts a little bit. But it is what it is, because if the rules would have been different, then other people would have got different points.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't have ended that way. I get it. But it was kind of funny to see that. And you heard, I think it was Corey said, it doesn't matter what we do, the other guys win. Do you know what I mean? Like even on their last turn, and they just made their pair, and obviously Austin and David bring home the win. And that was huge for them, huge for David, especially.
Yeah. He doesn't have to burn his idol. What would have been helpful is if they were able to, if Carlo doesn't pair with Annie, and like, instead of being concerned about who flipped and the other people being concerned about who flipped, try to get it so like everyone feels, okay, we can go for all on one or the other. David reveals to Carlo and Annie, hey, I have an idol. I can use it on one of you if we can ensure one of you is getting the bulk, at least 4 votes.
Yeah.
And then we use R3 to take out whoever we want. And that breaks apart that group. And that gives you headway as a 3 to bring in someone. And then you're in the majority.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when we get the opportunity, whether he wins or gets knocked out to chat with David, that's a conversation that we can bring up. And I'm going to bring that up here in a bit when we have a chance to speak with Carlo after we're done going through these to see what did he know and what kind of moves did he try. But I mean, we roll from that challenge into kind of the social round, I guess you could call it, the pre-tribal strategy session. And we see a lot of confessionals, and Annie kicks it off. You know, and pretty much starts saying, I'm not sure what's going on. I don't have a lot of info, and I'm available for people to maybe use me. But very, very soft when it comes to the aggression aspect at this point in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So with Annie,
that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because I'm like, if you're on the chopping block and you start that social round in a very, I think I use the word soft way, where you're not really attacking, you know, you're putting yourself in a rough spot because people are going to talk around you instead of with you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do give that to some of her inexperience, because this was her very first game she was ever playing. It was also like, she was a very last minute addition to the cast. She comes in, she does have the fortune of knowing David, but she really doesn't know anyone else. And you hear her in the past few rounds going like, the other tribe isn't even willing to talk to me. Like, they're not talking to me at all. So like, yes, I'm in the number. And that's what you have to do when you're in the minority and you don't have an advantage or something you can pull. Be like, hey, I can be a number for you to help you get the edge over your own group. And you get to rise up to number 2 or number 1 with me as a number. You can cut me at any time. But why cut me now when you can see you're going to beat me in challenges, but I can be a loyal soldier?
Well, and you know what? She kind of hurt herself a little bit in the physical challenge when they had to do the balancing of the water. I think she had something other than water. But anyway, so when she did the balancing, she lasted a long time. And in the memory challenge, she did really well again. And it's kind of like, you know, getting second place a whole bunch is almost just as bad as getting first, because the person who wins is safe and you were the one that almost knocked them out. But you know what? You can't discount the fact that Annie came in here, like you said, not knowing she was playing, right, that day. And a couple of hours into her day, gets invited into what could be a 12-hour outing. She's probably 6. This is episode 5. This is the 5th eviction. So she's probably 6 hours in, because the first half of the game, time-wise, is only the first third of the votes usually, because, you know, it takes a while to set up all the people. You have so many players and all this stuff. So she's, 5 or 6 hours into her first game, and still there. And you gotta give credit to that too, right? Like, she's not necessarily in the know and being the most aggressive, but not many people would be in their first game, never having had played yet, right?
Exactly. And especially when you are facing off against 4 of the 5 people in the other alliance have previous connections and previous game experience with one another. So there's that, even if you played against each other, you have that internal trust in there, in the fact that I know this person, and even if I don't trust them fully, I'm aware of how loyal they can be and when they would be willing to cut me, and I just have to plan for that. But for now, it's all about safety, and you're in this game that's going boom, boom, boom. 1 hour after another, someone's going out. You want comfort. You want someone that you're like, I at least know these people. They're not going to backstab me, right?
And you can tell when they're lying, and that's a big thing too, right? If you played with them before, you can kind of tell. And speaking of people like that, we go right to Corey, playing another big role. He always plays big roles this season. He's the opposite of Annie. He's very vocal, very, very aggressive with his plans, and tries to talk to everybody. And he does well kind of at playing dumb at, I have no idea who flipped. He jumps into a room and everyone's trying to find out once again, because they're completely focused on who flipped, right? They just can't get past that. And they're, who flipped? And he's like, I have no idea. And then I think he says, like, for real, I don't know. And then everyone goes quiet, kind of like, come on, man. And then he says, oh, I just got out of a confessional. And then they say, okay. and then keep
Yeah.
rolling, right? Because everybody knows the frustration of some guy, I don't know who it is, pulling them into confessionals. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he jumps into a conversation with Phill and swears allegiance to Phill because Phill, made the big move to save Corey on the previous episode.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty solid gameplay game from Corey, not giving anything away, and then promising his game to Phill pretty much for a final two.
You know what wasn't good gameplay, and that was when all of the original tribe come together and they ask Phill straight up, "Phill, were you the one that flipped?"
I
And
don't know.
and he goes, "I don't know." I'm like,
Yeah.
"How do you not know? How do you not know if you flipped or not?" Like, to me, I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah, and what
but
stood out
should you
there,
be caring about that? No. At this point, you've had several votes, or you have, I guess not several votes. You've had one. It feels like several, but
yeah,
you're in this game where it's like you can't be holding on to that. It's either you need to hit that retaliation immediately, or rebound and go, okay, I have to reassess. This is my new plan, and this is who I need to bring into the table. Like, I had to do that in in the game I played, where I was constantly having to go back and forth because I would do a move and then everyone's like, okay, that group wants to get me out now. So I go to the other
yeah.
side, and then I'm like, I'm assured
Well,
safety for them.
yeah, and we see some of that a little bit coming up. Whether it plays a big part or not, we'll have to watch in further episodes. But I mean, that's the natural progression. For some people in the game, where you have to get into fight or flight kind of mentality. And like you said, Phill has the worst answer of the season so far. Now there is a worse one coming up in episode 6, which we'll get to. But anyway, so Phill says, yeah, I don't know who, if I flipped or not. And David already knows, like he already suspects Phill, right?
Yeah.
And when he says he suspects him, in his head he knows. And he mentions that in a confessional. He catches Phill pretty much in a way. David's got his finger on the pulse, or whatever you want to say, really, really well in this game. He knows where the votes are going. He's happy to have his idol, and he has his idol and immunity in this episode, right? And once again, Austin is getting more and more confident as the game is going on. When it started off, he's happy-go-lucky, just kind of here to have fun and try hard and all that stuff. And now he's targeting Carlo or Annie, but just the way he's talking, you can tell that he's starting to have faith that he can make it pretty far. And in all of this, the name we haven't mentioned is Karen. Everybody is going bananas on who flipped, but also in both directions, right? So we've kind of bashed Annie and Carlo and David for being paranoid. Not really David, but Annie and Carlo for being paranoid about who flipped. On the other side, you've got the TOA Alliance, whatever you want to call them, trying to wonder, well, on the first vote, if you remember, Karen flipped and Phill flipped, so it ended up staying a tie, and they went to rocks or to the wheel on the Austin. I think it was Austin and Ryan were the two votes, right, back then.
Yep.
And they're trying to figure out who flipped, and they name everybody, including Austin, which is impossible. Everybody but Karen. Karen's name never comes up. And then Karen comes in the room and immediately changes the subject to they're sus of you, and they're targeting you, and yada, yada, yada. And still, even after she leaves, nobody thinks of her as a target. And they even blame Jeremy at one point, because Jeremy blames Austin, who couldn't have. Anyways, it is amazing.
Oh yeah, that was a
Karen
dumb one
is
by
hiding.
Jeremy. But yeah, so what Karen's doing here, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but like, her big thing is, I just don't want anyone to be thinking about me. And her best way of doing it, she saw it through the Ryan and Corey conflict, was, I just need people suspicious of each other, or keep that us versus them mentality going. Because if it's that, I'm going to still stay safe, because I know in some combination, Phill, Corey, Austin, and Jeremy want to bring me along towards the end game. Whether or not I can beat them at the end is a different story, but that's my safest route. So do everything I can to not push too much, but just suddenly go, hey, they're saying your name over there.
Exactly, right? And it's a smart gameplay. It's a mini. This isn't a long game. People don't have time to really investigate, the validity of someone's statement. They just believe it or don't, and they're believing Karen, wholeheartedly right now. And we roll into Tribal, and we start off with Austin, having had one and getting asked, why did you pick David and stuff? And I think Austin's confidence at this point is coming back to bite him in a little way, because you see more veteran players like Karen and Corey and Phill. Corey maybe not so much, but Karen and Phill, they're very subtle with their answers. Even when they're asked a very direct question, they kind of give a very short, vague answer. And Karen at one point, I think in this tribal, says along the lines of, it's hard to do anything without Messenger now. Like, how can I do anything if it's just so setting herself up to say like Messenger is the problem. And if anything goes the way that people don't want, well, it's not my fault. I couldn't help it. And just beautiful answer.
Yeah.
And Austin, on the other hand, says, I like David. I wanted to get to know him and I wanted to work with him in that challenge or something like that. And I'm thinking, that's the last thing your allies want to hear right now, is that you wanted to work with David. Now, that being said, maybe it was gameplay and he said that on purpose to kind of, make David feel comfortable or whatever. But, David's safe anyway. So it just it was an odd answer to give, saying that you really wanted to learn more about the other side. But then again, like I said, I only see what's on the episode. So maybe there was some more, finagling going on there.
To me, I think with someone like Austin, his best attribute was being social and just being likable across the board to everyone. So I could believe that was just a 100%. This is an honest statement right here. First time he's ever played a game like this. Before here, I don't think he really even watched Survivor that much. And you know what? There is some strategy to answering like that instead of being cryptic, because you can take a cryptic answer and everyone else around you's going, dude, we see what you're doing right now. You're
exactly.
It's not just a host it's not just Lauren who gets mad with the non-answers. Sometimes players are going, okay, be straight up here. Like sometimes it's good to be straight up and sometimes you need to be like, I have something hidden here. It'll be revealed in time, but for now, I'm going to give this non-answer.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines, Jeremy, who seems to know everything. He knew who flipped 2 episodes ago. He knows. He once again, him and David, I think, have the best read on what's going on in the game so far. Obviously, Corey is causing a lot of it, but Jeremy and David are doing a good job at keeping track of everything. But Jeremy in this tribal says, I didn't know who to vote for. I only heard one name. I had no idea what's going on. We are not talking. It's impossible even with Messenger. Like without Messenger, like who the hell knows what's gonna happen? And it's just genius, right? Because the guy he never talks, and then when he does talk, once again, just says, like, how can I be without these words? But how can I be a threat? I don't even know what's going on here. And Annie, kind of on the same lines of that again, says, I'm also in the dark. I think she spoke first, but I'm in the dark here. No one's talking to me. But I'm here. I'm available if anybody has a plan or a move they want to make. And I feel like right now, and we've seen it in other episodes, right now is her time. And I think, first game, you never know, right? You never know what to do for sure if it's your first time playing. That's her chance to say, here's what we got to do. Here's why I should stay. Here's why someone else should go. I'm in trouble right now, and here's why I don't think I should be. I haven't won a challenge, right? I'm in the minority. You guys are in La La Land over there, in 5 people thinking that, you're gonna make it to the end all together in some final tribal council. You've got someone in your alliance who's already flipped twice. So who's saying they're not going to flip on you again? Right? I think we all have the same target. Like it's an argument that I'm just kind of making it up as I go here, but I feel like you could throw out just something. And I felt kind of let down in a way that maybe, I think David might have maybe could have coached her a bit on that, knowing that it was her first time playing and David was kind of responsible for getting her in there. But David might have coached her a little bit beforehand. Said, listen, when you get to tribal, you got to start throwing daggers at so-and-so. Yeah. Right. I think it's Phill. And he could have told her Phill flipped, even if he wasn't sure, right? Just to cause mayhem and then make her attack Phill. And then Carlo could have jumped on it. And then everybody could, and then just something. And it just, it felt, it is what it is. It's your first time playing, but it was, I would have loved to have seen her really just take control of her fate there and stand up at that point.
Yeah. So essentially we're wrapping up episode 5 with seeing Annie do go out. I do believe at the end of the day, majority vote, that was the right call. Because if you're going to make a move, you don't make the move at 8 if it's a 5-3. You make the move at 7 when it's 5-2. if you have people within that 5 you can bring with you. And we are
Yeah.
going to discuss that right now. So we're getting into episode 6. We're at final 7, and we have a competition of stack cup, and you have to put the cups up from in the stack pile, take them off, put index cards in between them, take the index cards out, do it. And it was tournament style. Last person would get eliminated each and every single time. We did have a little bit of shenanigans here with some people not necessarily following the rules of how this started off. We had some people starting with the cups already separated. So you hear that halfway through with McKenna saying, or Ian comes on and says, hey, everyone needs to keep them stacked to start and then do it. Overall, I don't think it changed what the outcome was going to be. We see Phill end up winning it. It's multiple wins now, and you hear him say and talk about, I just have to keep winning. Like, I feel like people are going to see me as a threat, so the only thing I can do is just go all out in every single challenge. Robbie, from your perspective, is that the right move? Or should you, even if it's a mini and you're going at this accelerated pace, shouldn't you be focusing more on, yeah, winning is cool, but make the relationships with everyone else so that even if you don't win, people would still want to bring you along?
Well, at that point, at the end of the challenge, I believe all of the other targets were out, and it was just him and his ally Corey left.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know what it's like to be in the heat of the moment in that challenge, and sometimes you just can't help yourself. You know, I've gone into a challenge before knowing I needed to throw it because I had somebody on another tribe I needed to save, and halfway through the challenge, I had to message somebody that I was working with and say, like I don't know if I can throw this. I was just too competitive, right? But if he could have thrown that to Corey, right, and given Corey that immunity win, then Corey's target is even bigger at that point.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And they've got multiple targets in the game, right? You still have David, you still have Carlo, and it's a relatively safe time. It's really the only time from now until the end of the game that would have been safe to throw it to an ally. And you know, you could have even told him afterwards, like, listen, man, you've been getting votes for the last 5 episodes. I figured you'd like to be safe for one of them. You know what I mean? Now, obviously I'm exaggerating slightly, but Corey's been, you know, the target, the name that's been mentioned in almost every tribal here. And that could have put a target on Corey and taken it away from Phill and built that alliance a little stronger if that's possible. But I can't blame Phill. I mean, you know, you're playing a mini, you want to win everything. I can't blame anybody for trying to win a challenge.
Yeah. So with that, we finished that. We're going to the scramble round, and someone who I want to talk to, we're going to bring him on right now, and we can talk about the scramble and the tribal and just his overall perspective on the game. And it's who gets eliminated here at Final 7, and that's Carlo. So I'm bringing him on right now as we stall. And hello, Carlo. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing good. Thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing great, and your mic sounds fantastic. So I will already get past the question that Frank had for you of, was your mic on the other side of the room? LOL, JK.
Yes, we kind of actually sort that out while waiting and stuff. Yeah, I don't hear myself very often, obviously, and I didn't use the mic that often, but once I figured out that the webcam mic was very bad, I took the measure of investing in something from Amazon, and a few days later, like, it's much better.
It absolutely is. So, Carlo, we just finished discussing. We just got past the immunity challenge of Stack Cup. We're going into the scramble round. Robbie, do you have any initial questions for Carlo?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I noticed was David, like I said a moment ago, really has a great understanding of what he feels is going to happen. And one of the things that he mentioned was that he expects it to be a 3-2-2 vote. They're going to split the votes between Carlo and David, probably 3 on David. You know, anybody who's discussing split is going to be worried it's on them. So he says it's probably going to be 3 on me, 2 on Carlo. And then Carlo and I, being, you know, David and Carlo, will be voting for somebody else. So 3-2-2, it would be the breakdown. And Carlo right after we see this in the episode, goes to Karen and Jeremy. And I wrote this down here as a kind of a special note, because I think it was a great move. I think you got two people away from Austin, Phill, and Corey, and you said, listen, there's a guy in here who's flipping on people, and he's not going to help anybody, being Phill, and maybe we should do something together here. I'm a number. We're getting down to it. Like, let's start thinking about the end game here, because you guys aren't going to be Final Five forever. And Carlo, I think that was a great move. Now, when you were in that room with Karen and Jeremy, did you feel like they were being receptive to that, or do you kind of feel like it was on deaf ears?
I kind of had mixed feeling. I was not really expecting anything. Like David said, it was kind of a last ditch attempt in order to generate something, since Phill flipped and we were kind of beaten by the whole thing. I tried to generate things, like if it could have generate an order, like, and I did not even know that Karen and Jeremy were working together then. So it turned out to be a great thing, and I kind of really enjoy when McKenna and Lauren forced to stop using Messenger in order for us to scramble more. I think it's more related to the game, since it's super fast paced and it's not a full season where you have more luxury of chatting and blah blah blah. Like you have the luxury of time, where in a mini you don't. So yes, I got lucky there. Unfortunately, it did not turn out, but with David, excellent speech at that tribal, maybe things could have worked differently.
Well, and you see that like you mentioned, Jeremy and Karen kind of working together, and having you come in to that trio would have been a really powerful move for those two, because we saw at the very beginning of this episode, it starts off right off the bat with Jeremy saying, we're getting down to the end. I got to start thinking about my resume. Right. And
yes,
so
that's what.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, so you coming to him and Karen at that point is really, like, to me as a viewer, saying Jeremy wants to make a move. He said it out loud. I want to make a move. And you're somebody who, if you join them, you would be outnumbered, because it's not like you're saying to Jeremy, why don't you come work with me and David? You're saying, let me join you and Karen, and I'll be the minority in those three, and you guys can have the power, but we'll work.
That came very close to, they decided to stick with, I don't remember. They stuck together with all the with their group, and going up to 5 with David on the left out, since he got protected with his idol, which was good for him. But maybe things would have changed. Like if they would have sided with us in order to use us to take out some of their numbers, and then I don't know, maybe we could have been lucky and slipped by with other chance at immunities and stuff.
Yeah. So with that, I do agree with Robbie here that you and then David end up going to the right people to talk to in Karen and Jeremy. And I think specifically Jeremy, because as we say in his confessional, Karen, not so much, because Karen's like, I just want to do what's safe right now and stick with my group. Jeremy was the one saying, I'm thinking of making my resume. And at 7, where you already know the vote's getting split 2-3 amongst your group of 5, you can make that change, just like Phill did the change earlier. And you swing over, you make a power play to take out someone that people are perceiving to be a big threat in the game, whether it's by their mouth with Corey or with their immunities with Phill. Obviously, Phil's safe there. So you're throwing your votes on Corey. Corey goes out, and that changes the entire landscape of the game, because now the rest of that group is scrambling because all of them had Corey in their endgame plans.
We did try a lot to get Corey out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. And on that move, should have Karen and Jeremy agreed to do something, provide that Phill didn't have immunity. That would have been a nice payback for what he gave us. Because originally, that wasn't really mentioned in the early stage of the game. But the original plan, David reached out quite quickly to me and pulled out Annie as well. So the fact that we were a trio wasn't mentioned until my last comments in the game, but that thing was very real since the beginning. And I don't know, maybe it got obviously edited in another way with David wanted to work with Ryan and Phill, but the theory or the big picture that we had then is sticking with our group of five with me, Annie, and David,
Yeah.
and then taking care of Ryan and Phill. Of course, anything can happen, like we saw, but that was the original plan. So I was surprised that it was not that mentioned. So I'm glad that I can set that record straight.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you did because I was aware of these other plans that everyone in your original group had. I do have a question for you though. How much of an impact to your own game individually after the merge at the Ryan vote, Phill flips? How much of a detriment to your game was it that you and some of the other people on your original tribe spent more time focusing on who flipped instead of like regrouping and just going, okay, let's figure out a new game plan. We're going to go this way and we just have to make something work. But it seems like you guys, at least as we see in the edited part of the show, it's very much being hammered home, not just by you, but from Annie and from David and from Ryan, like who flipped. We need to figure out who flipped. And in a game like a mini, it's sort of not necessary to figure out who flipped, but more so just make a name, say that person flipped, and then they're the enemy, and you can create a counter plan.
Correct. Maybe we spend too much time over analyzing things since we didn't add that much luxury of time, but we were all jaw drop, and especially for me, since like I just told, the big plan was keeping us five and then taking care of things. Like obviously something would have fractured along the way, but that was the initial plan. So seeing that we had the numbers and something happened like this, we were kind of all in shock, and the shock factor took more time to regroup and stuff since we know we were at the bottom, and then how to reach to the others and stuff, and they obviously stuck together and keep the numbers taking us out. Like it's kind of sad because I feel that Annie and I were kind of just waiting for our turn to come, but sometimes this is how it goes. So like,
Well,
I had fun, but
the thing is too is you've got somebody like Corey, as an opponent, and he's working with Austin, who I believe this is Austin's first, right?
just like me, yes.
Right, but Austin has Phill now, right? Austin has Karen, Austin has Jeremy, all of these people who have played multiple times. You and Annie were both in your first, and obviously you worked together. You were partners in the challenge. You tried to team up and all these good things. But did David try to step up at all and coach you guys through? Because I believe David's had to have had played more than one of these before. I don't know what his history is there, but
I was aware that David played. He told me that he played only once, and just looking at his profile, like basic Facebook profile search while playing and stuff, I knew that he actually won the season that he played. I'm not sure if it was a mini or something, but we kind of stuck together. Coming in the game, I didn't knew anyone at all, but a little bit Karen, since she is also a member of the NSFW group that like we kind of interacted a little bit there, but I didn't knew anybody at all. So I was kind of more of laid back, like, well, people commented that like I'm more laid back, like Phill and stuff. And it's not entirely untrue, but it's more like my approach. I don't know what's going on. I just want to get a feel of everything, and then I open up.
Well, and this is where I feel David, which he might feel this is unjust, but I feel like David, based on how the alliances are falling, whether people wanted to or not, you guys are stuck together right now. And I feel like when you see people, like Karen and Phill and everybody mentioning that it's hard to talk to anybody, and Karen even said, I'm relying on other people to go spread a message for me at this point because I don't have the time to go talk to everybody. And you see at one point, Austin is talking to David and lies and says, I haven't heard your name once. We're all talking Carlo, all this stuff. And I almost felt like he was sent there I almost feel like Corey or somebody said to Austin, okay, Austin, go find David. We think he has the idol. Make him feel safe. Tell him it's not him and it's Carlo, and maybe he won't use the idol tonight or whatever. Anyways, I feel like those guys were sending people out as soldiers to go spread messages. And I feel like at this point, David really could have stepped up and said, okay, Carlo, listen, man, you haven't talked to Jeremy much, but it'd be great if you could go find him wherever he is and just be there and try to send this message. And Annie, back when Annie was there, you go and spread this message and I'll go to this person. And if we all say the same thing and everyone's hearing it, maybe something will, you know what I mean? I feel like he could have tried to take control there.
In order to generate something and do teamwork, yes, I understand, especially since it's a mini, we are in a very, very limited time. I remember the first tribal that we won, like we did the first challenge, we messed up, we had to go to tribal council like that. We had less than 5 minutes, 2 minutes to strategize and tribal council it really, really, really fast. Yeah. The choice was a little bit easier, and Keaton kind of shoot himself in the foot with the comment that he did. But even there, we didn't add much time to even talk with each other. So we just went with general first impression, and obviously Keaton's comment kind of helped. But yes, I had limited experience with all these things, but I do have lots of experience since I'm come with a very extensive board gaming background, so I can say that I'm a fast learner and I adjust easily to these things. So I had the chance after this to play in other orgs, and it did went my play style was differently.
Yeah, and that's really good. And with minis, what I tend to notice is if you constantly play and you end up playing in a lot of games that you end up seeing familiar faces in, playing that same game over and over again, it gets stale, and also it's easy to read. So when people are able to be fast learners of this game and then be able to go in essentially any situation and be like, oh, instead of playing this way, I can play this way, and then go, okay, changing everything that I know about Survivor in my gameplay and adapting it. And those are the very skilled players.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to mix it up, like, and adapt in situations. And this, like, I was very happy with the outcome. Of course, it's not the outcome that I wanted, but it gave me a good experience to what to expect and stuff. And from that, I adjusted a few things, and it did work well. So I think it's really important also, like you just mentioned, to be able to mix it up. Another big factor is once I realized that there was a lot of, I don't know, popular names where the community, like there was kind of a, not like semi-starstruck wow factor that says, holy shit, I'm playing with this. All kind of like, I'm gonna keep it humble and stuff. And the thing that was a little bit annoying is, like, with all these players and stuff, there was a lot of pre-existing connections. So that was kind of sad, but it is what it is. And I thought to myself, moving onward, if I ever want to play further or interact further, like, I need to get in touch and be friends. So right now, like, I sent a zillion friend requests, and eventually this is a small community and we're all in touch one way or another, commenting on stuff. And then people get to know you. So once they end up playing with you in a season or something, they will be more inclined to do something. So I have no regrets there.
Well,
that's awesome.
And along the lines of that kind of that conversation about being newer to the minis, you, Annie, Nick, people who are playing there first, they're the people that intrigue me the most to watch again. Nothing against the people who have played a bunch is great, right? But the people who play once and then to see their second game and to see how they adapt and how they learned from playing the first time and how that changed, because I've been critical of your game a little bit and Annie's game and things like maybe a move could have been made here or there, but how would you know if you've never played, right?
Exactly.
Right. It really depends on the setting. Again, for me, it's like when I learn a new board game and stuff, I don't expect, like, I'm very competitive by nature. I don't expect to win necessarily there, but learning the ropes, like, of course, I knew Survivor, of course, I knew the mechanics, but knowing and experiencing it is two very different things. So there's kind of a big difference. And unlike Annie and I, Nick is also maybe it was his first experience, but he is also well known within the community. So that kind of helped him, I guess, a little bit more than it did for me and Annie.
Yeah.
Should have went to the wheel, I guess.
Yeah, this season was all. If there was a theme for this season,
that was a lucky one. That was really a lucky one, because as the other tribe pointed out, we were slightly at disadvantage, and we just end up being lucky on that wheel. So imagine when we saw this and we say, "Oh, it's 5-4," still having the David, Annie, and Carlo plan in set. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, like, Robbie, do you have any other things you want to talk about for this specific episode? Because I do have something about the vote and what could have happened that would have been an amazing move for someone on that majority side.
I have one question. I've got one question, and that is, did you know, David, at any point, or when did you know, if you did, that David had the idol, Carlo?
David told me prior to this vote, like, we ended up in a room together and stuff, and we were talking, okay, let's try something again. That's why we decided to one last time do Korean stuff. And I say, listen, you probably have the idol, use it to save yourself, and it is what it is. I was happy to play with you. Thank you. And David was actually the first one who reached out to me in the game. So that's why we got in, and Annie got in, and blah, 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 what I said. And I said, like, use it to save yourself, and I'll be happy. I'll be happy for you. Like,
so he kept that secret.
Once you get to know me, I'll be the one to take the bullet for you and stuff. Like, even if we just barely know each other like this, that's the type of person that I am. So I was happy for him, but yes, he did told me during that conversation that he had the idol, or he found the idol.
Okay. Cool. That's good to know. Obviously, with me doing, I'm not like Lauren and McKenna, who sort of had their eyes everywhere. I only had the confessionals. And with that, I'm ignoring the cat that just flew out of nowhere.
I have 9 cats, so it's their house and not, we're just servants here.
Oh, yeah. So with that, it's like, you go into this vote, and you did have your pitch to Jeremy. If I was Jeremy in this specific situation, this is where I make the move that could be pivotal for his game. It can make or break his game. It's a risk, but sometimes in these games, you have to take risks. You know the vote's going to be split 3-2. He should have found a way to get to you and David individually and go, hey, this is how the votes are going out. I'm sorry I can't do this for you guys, but if I can, who would you want me to put my name, like put a name down? You guys end up saying Corey. He goes, okay, let me think about it, but most likely 3 votes are going on you, David. What actually he should have been doing in the background is go to his group and go, we're going to put 2 votes on David and 3 votes on Carlo. And he would be one of the 3 votes on Carlo. He then switches at Tribal to vote with you guys to vote Corey. So 3 votes are on Corey, 2 votes are on David, 2 votes are on Carlo. But the idol gets used, and that's a master stroke play, because all at once he takes out a heavy hitter in the game who's controlling the narrative. You get rid of an idol, and then he can easily just go right back to his group and take you 2 out, or go with you 2, bring in Karen, and then you guys are the new 4.
That would have been a big plus on his resume too, and maybe it would have made the difference along the way for him further. Like, I don't know, like how his game went afterwards. I felt that Karen was more sticking to her side, and if somebody could have swayed her, it would have been Jeremy.
Yep. So with that, we do have some questions or comments from our Facebook page. And if you don't know about the Facebook page, it's in the link in the description. Please join, and you'll be able to join in future games that we host. First comment is from Josh Blake, and he wanted you to know, Carlo, he doesn't have a question for you, but just wanted to say you're a good dude, and it was fun to watch you play. And I look forward to playing in a game together or watching you play in the future.
That's very nice. I knew Josh by name and a little bit, and he seems like a very nice person. I had the first chance to interact with him not that long ago, and that's always nice to have nice comments like this. Like I said, knowing better, knowing the people or blending more within the family community that everybody is only a big plus moving onward for whatever happens.
Yep. Next question. Cam Church asks, have you watched other orgs in previously before you ended up playing this one? And we know this was your first game you played, but have you seen orgs previously?
No. How I get dragged in and how this is, well, everybody knows Lauren, so eventually I asked Lauren, what is all this thing, what is org means and stuff, and she explained to me and stuff. Oh, that could be nice eventually. And the thing that I knew, once Chaos got created, I got in, and then I got asked to participate in these things. It was a first experience, and I did enjoy it, of course.
That's awesome. Frank Goodpasser wants to know, will you ever trust Phill Conte again?
Actually, with Phill, I was kind of heavily disappointed, but again, can't blame him, as he was not part in my original plans and stuff. I was kind of disappointed that he went out like he did what he did, but afterwards, along the way, the weeks, I had the chance to talk with him and stuff, and I realized how such a nice person he is, and it really, really, really is impressive. Like, I am very much happy to have know him, and I'm looking forward to play with him, maybe work with him and not get stabbed by him. But I was really impressed by him as an individual. So you will see how it goes.
Hey, who knows? Maybe sometime in the future you get to stab him in the back, and that's a good favor. But yep. Last comment is from
Yep.
Yep. And that's the attitude I want.
Yep.
You have to be a quiet assassin there. It's a long con. Watch out, Phill.
Like I said, I'm a fast learner. I load a few things, and with my board game background, it will help me out mix things up.
That's the most threatening thing to hear, when someone stabs you in the back and they say, "Don't worry, I'm a fast learner."
Well,
imagine if that was your final words as you were leaving tonight. You're just like,
yeah.
To the people who betrayed me, I'm a fast learner.
I'm a quick learner.
And then screen goes blank.
No, you gotta defend yourself a little bit. Like, my favorite board game is Battlestar Galactica. Long story short, like, it's a hidden trader game mechanic, and I've played like hundreds of games with it. Like, you have to know when to lie and when to adjust and mix it up and blah 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 to try to deceive people, because I don't reach out, and these things doesn't come out naturally for me. Maybe a thing that people may not know about me is I have autism. I'm autistic. So reading body language, social cue, and stuff like this is not something, it's like I'm colorblind to that. So I got to compensate with other skills. And those skills mainly comes from board gaming.
Yeah, and you know what? When you told me about your autism, it gave me even more respect from you. And it also made you more relatable to me, because I have a younger brother. He's just a couple of years younger than me, but he also is autistic. And so immediately I understood the situation you did, and it gave me so much more respect for how you played, because with that type of social cues that sometimes people with autism it's a little harder for them to get to understand.
Impossible.
Yeah, almost impossible. it's very difficult, but you were still able to manage it. And it wasn't like people were coming after you going like, oh, he's a bad social player. He's not good at the game.
No,
Like,
no, no,
it
no.
wasn't that at all.
I didn't feel that way at all. Like for us, it's really impossible. The way to interact generally is to explain. This is what I meant. This is what I stuff. Like if you feel offended, like ask us what do we mean and stuff, and so on. So reaching out to people, this is not a thing that autistic people do naturally. I use board game to reach out, or I will reach out to people within context. Of course, this online family community comes with survivors, so it's easy to use that topic to reach out and then going onward. But as a game related thing, yes, I was more laid back like Phill. Will I be that way again? Maybe, but I know how to mix it up.
And that's great. And
I hopefully will have a chance to prove it eventually.
And I believe you will at some point. But we're going to end this on a very positive note as well. Melissa Vigil, I probably said the last name bad. Don't kill me, Melissa. She wanted you to know what a great game you played, Carlo. I'm looking forward to rooting for you again in the future. And so you're really seeing in these comments and in these questions, everyone loves you, Carlo. Like, they can't wait to see you play again. You're very friendly. You come off so likable and approachable. I think it was so great to have you play this season, this being your first game. You get into a good community, and I am looking forward to seeing you play more of these games.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Like, I really appreciated my time. I really appreciated the opportunity. Will I play again? Like, right now, I'm in kind of in between. But never say never. I actually would like to play again with the exact same cast, knowing that we know each other and things would have been differently. As you saw, another cat chime in. And this one is Oscar. He's looking like Karen's Wonka. So very nice cat. And yes, I did enjoy this. And I don't have any plans to play further games right now, other than the other opportunities that I had, but never say never. And maybe one last thing that I thoroughly enjoy with Chaos Online is also the Ponderosa factor when we were all there. I had the chance to interact more with Annie and Corey and other people more specifically and stuff along the way that we really, 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 really enjoy ourselves there. So, like, special shout out. That was a very favorite time of that I had.
That's awesome. Before we end this, Robbie, do you have any final words for this reaction?
Yeah, no more questions. I'm really happy to hear that you made connections. You mentioned Phill and some other folks. And that's one of the main things that we hear repeatedly when it comes to people playing in even the minis, like the short games, like the short 12 hours, the short games like this, or the long ones that go on for a month or more, that you make connections and you make real friends here. And it sounds corny to say it, but it's true. You know, some of my closest friends are people that I've met playing through a camera during this pandemic that we're going through all over the world. And it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, I'm in a different country than most folks, and, you know, we make these connections. So I'm really happy to hear that you've made connections like that too, playing this game.
This is my original country as well. I'm from Quebec. So
there you go. New Brunswick.
That's the thing.
See, I'm the foreigner in this one.
Yeah. As long as Robbie have taste poutine, he's okay. Else,
that's right.
Gotta talk.
Well, with that, that's going to conclude tonight's reaction episode to some of episode 5 and episode 6. Thank you, Carlo, for joining us. Thank you, Robbie, always for your excellent analysis. We will be back with our scheduled programming as we continue to pump out these episodes and recaps so that you can get all the interaction and feedback from the players themselves, and the hosts, Lauren and McKenna, will be back in time. And until then, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notifications so that you are aware when future episodes are being published and premiered on the channel. And if you like these type of games and want to be involved, click the Facebook link at the bottom of this description and join the Facebook page. It's a great community, and we will have future games that we will need players for. But with that, we're out.